Hello, everybody. Uh, I'm talking about Rahu in Aries, Ketu in Libra, part 2. We are focusing on Rahu Ketu transits and over your natal planets, and also how the eclipses can impact your natal planets. So this transit is lasting for 18 months. It started on 12th of April 2022 and lasts till 30th of October 2023. And during this time, Rahu will be crossing over planets, Ketu will be crossing over planets. So how does it affect? This is what I'm going to talk in this video. And there is a video number 3 coming about your signs. Hello, I'm Komilla Sutton, and we are talking Rahu Ketu in Aries Libra axis and their transit over planets in your chart. Do remember to subscribe, press the bell notification. Rahu Ketu will be in Libra Aries axis from 12th April 2022 to 30th October 2023. So this is an 18-month transit. During that time, Rahu will be going over your planets in Aries and Ketu will be going over planets in Libra. And there will be eclipses in Aries Libra that can impact your planets. So as a general rule of thumb, the planets are ruling certain houses in your chart, and they are having certain significations. So, Sun may rule the 4th house if you're Taurus ascendant, and Sun also signifies government or father. So therefore, each planet has those. Those are basic aspects of Vedic astrology, and you can look at that from any book, even my Essentials of Vedic Astrology beginner's book. All the information about the planets is given there. So what you have to think about is that when you're doing the transit analysis, Rahu Ketu moving backwards over the planet. So Rahu came at 30 degrees of Aries and will transit to 0 degrees Aries. So they move backwards. So your higher degrees planets will get affected first, lower degrees later on. And then Ketu, the same, comes in at 30 degrees of Libra and transits up to 0 degrees of Libra. These are always very important transits, and they are important because Rahu Ketu represents karmic issues. And karmic issues are those that we don't always have control over. That means something is happening from past lives that has unexpected results and things that we are not aware of. Of the two, Ketu transits are way more difficult to deal with. Rahu is easier to deal with. However, when the transit is exact, then that is the most intense time of the transit. And then we also look at one extra point, that are the eclipses taking place near your planet. So the 3 most important planets, or 3 most important things in your chart, is your ascendant, your sun, and moon. But then over and above that, all the other planets, if they are taking place near that, then it could be your ascendant ruler, it could be signifying other things, so the impact can be there. How much impact of these transits also depends on what dasha you are in, and then how much you are practicing restraint, being aware of these transits, and not doing impulsive things when the transit is happening. So the main thing is that you have to look at them separately. And the third part of this video will be where I talk about how they impact your sign. So two opposite signs are being impacted today. We are just talking about how they affect. So let us start with Rahu. So Rahu starts at 30 degrees of Aries and ends at the Gandanta point at 0 degrees of Aries. So any planet you have between Aries to Aries, 30 to 0 degrees Aries, is going to be impacted. Usually Rahu will, if it is going over your ascendant, it actually brings opportunities for you. It gets good stuff for you, but it can also bring some transformation and change. So when Rahu is transiting exact degree of your ascendant, watch those few days around that time, because Rahu is a shadow planet. So we are not thinking very clearly, not thinking clearly at all. Now, moon is the mind. It is also significator for mother, plus it will rule one house in your chart. So when Rahu is going over the moon, remember Rahu has great enmity to the moon. So he's sowing wrong type of ideas for you. So you must be aware that this is not the best transit to make any impulsive decisions. Of course, your moon is in Aries, so you are rushing to do things as a natural thing. But while Rahu is going over, you have to think this is some, foreign force that is giving us wrong ideas. So let me wait, let me process this transit, let the transit pass over the degree of the moon. It's not the whole of Aries. Let it pass over the degree of the moon, and then you can decide what you want to do. Sun represents your ego, your identity, your soul. Rahu is great enemy with the sun as well. So as Rahu is transiting exact degree over your sun, remember that Rahu is going backward. So he starts at 30 degrees of Aries and is going all the way back. So as he's going exact degree over your sun, you do need to be conscious of that and be careful, because sun is going to create ego problems. It can make you lose your dharmic values for that little while. So remember that your sun is exalted, powerful, but Rahu is bringing some wrong suggestions to it, and it is obscuring your purity of thought process. So while Rahu is transiting, you're taking care and, avoiding making decisions and being just more spiritual. Although Rahu can bring a lot of opportunities as well, but how you're going to take those opportunities has to be decided after Rahu has finished his transit over your sun. Mars is a planet of action. And if you have Mars in Aries, that's a very good thing to have. But again, Rahu is the disruptor in chief. So he wants to disrupt things. He wants to turn them out, make them into different areas. Now, is that negative or positive? In my experience, I've always seen that Rahu brings opportunities. Only thing is, when it's going directly over your planet, and Mars especially, that we don't want that exact moment of our decision time, but to wait and then decide later on. Rahu's transit over Mercury, even though Mercury is a friend of Rahu, the exact transit when Rahu is transiting over Mercury, then that is not the best time. And this Mercury is in Aries, so it is much more impulsive, fast-moving thought process. And Rahu is wanting you to, do things suddenly, change everything. So it is important, again, to realize that this is not an easy transit for you, and to take care. Rahu's transit over Jupiter. Now, Jupiter is the guru, and Rahu is, you could say, the opposite guru. He is wanting to give you all sorts of international, foreign, unusual ideas. So Rahu's transit over Guru can make you expand your horizons, think outside the box, but it can, on the negative level, also bring some wrong type of advisors, wrong thinking, wrong wisdom. So one has to always keep a balance about those things. And if you are conscious that this is what is happening, and then you can make decisions accordingly. And generally, when the transit is exact, that means Rahu is coming towards your natal Jupiter, and then that moment that could last about a week, 10 days, then it is important to keep that in mind. Rahu over Venus, again, Rahu, Venus are good. Venus is the guru for Rahu, but this is Rahu coming to Venus. It can impact relationships. It can impact general feel-good factor. It means your Venus is in Aries, so that itself is not the most comfortable position for Venus. And then Rahu transiting over it can obscure the message and, create a feeling of unsettled energy within your relationships, because Venus signifies marriage, relationships, and general feel-good factor. So it is important to take care. Rahu in transiting over Saturn. Now, this is a difficult transit because it means that Saturn in your chart is in Aries, which is a debilitated position of Saturn. And it is, two malefics, Rahu going over your Saturn. So you've got to be extra careful, extra restrained, and not allow the disruption, because Saturn is also rushing to do things, but he's not very strong. And then Rahu there is adding to the drama of the situation. So to do some remedy for it and practice patience, take your time, and minimize the disruptions. Finally, Rahu going over natal Rahu. That means that you are getting a Rahu return. That it is 18 years have passed, and it would be that you are either 18 or 36 or 54 years old or 72 years old. You're having the Rahu return. And these are significant times. Nothing really happens on the return itself, but it's like one cycle of life has ended and a new cycle is beginning. And always, you start feeling internally that there is one area has closed and something new is coming. And I don't think that on the day itself, unless it activates that energy, anything happens on the day that Rahu returns. Now, Rahu going over Ketu. Ketu is obviously the opposite. That means 9 years have passed. Rahu is going over your natal Ketu. And again, the same aspect is there, that really Rahu is thinking about past life, what has happened, and it is also thinking of letting go of some aspects, but it can focus too much on things that have gone past. And I think if Rahu is going over Ketu, you should think that this is the time to let go of some old thoughts, some old attachments, some old prejudices, and move on. Again, anything which is exact, that is the most intense time. There can be some sudden expense also that Rahu transiting over Ketu can bring. The main thing about Rahu's transit in Aries is that it is an 18-month transit. And what you're looking for is that when that transit is exact on your planet degree. You need to look at that and then decide where it is, which is the time when it is exact. I can't tell that to you from here because I don't know the various degrees of your chart. But then that is the time where Rahu is being most complex. And then otherwise, I'll be talking about in the next part of the video, I'll be talking about how it impacts your signs. Ketu transits. Now, Ketu is the opposite. Usually, Ketu transits are always much harder to experience. Rahu is looking to the future, more opportunities, easier, but Ketu is about rejection, about letting go, about avoiding facing things. And it is also past life karma that can suddenly come and we have to deal with it. And Ketu transit sometimes bring expenses. It can bring sometimes people or relatives or friends also that are from some big karmic link and that we have to deal with the situation. But generally, as a rule of thumb, Ketu is not the easiest energy. And if you have planets in Libra, then you are going through complex time. And again, remind you that it's a long transit, but the exact when Ketu is transiting over the degree and maybe 1 week, 15 days when the intensity is exact. And Ketu is very funny planet or interesting planet that he doesn't give what you want. So if he is in a mood to give you, he can also give a lot because Ketu is a past life planet. And we tend to only think of it as a more challenging planet. But if his mood is there, he can bring you some old stuff and he can also bring a lot of opportunities. I remember many years ago when Ketu was transiting my fourth lord exactly, I got a big inheritance at that time. And it was, I knew, but it was exactly at that moment. It was unexpected. And the timing was so therefore don't think only negatively, but at the same time be ready that the Ketu is bringing, and Ketu needs to let go. So he brings rejection and letting go. So ascendant in Libra. So when Ketu is transiting, Ketu is also headless. So when he's transiting, we feel very flaky, don't know what to do. We want to reject everything. Change career, life, everything. So please try to stop doing that. That is not necessary to do it at that time. And then wait till the transit is over, and you don't want to reject everything. Maybe some things you need to change. Ketu over Moon. Moon is the mind, emotional time. It is very unsettled emotionally at this time. And you've maybe doing yoga, meditation, spiritual things. That is important to do. Ketu over the Sun. Sun is your identity, ego, your personality, your soul. So Ketu over the Sun can be giving you some messages. It can be helping you to find yourself as well. But as it goes over the Sun, you may have sudden issues with the authority, with the father. Those are important to watch over. Ketu over Mars. Both of them are angry planets. So we have to be careful. Mars is in Aries, that you don't get angry and frustrated and feel rejected. So you want to react back. So be very cautious about it, that particular transit, exact transit. Ketu over Mercury. Mercury is the thinking planet. Ketu is making you think oddball way, different way. And it also wants to let go and wants to change everything. So the thinking can be very unusual at this time. And therefore, we have to be cautious that we are not thinking in the wrong way. So best to do is that to wait for the transit to pass, then decide what is it that you want to do. Ketu over Jupiter. Jupiter is the guru, the advisor, whether you have outside advisors or inner advisors. Now, Ketu is also connected to past life knowledge. So this may be a good time for you to do something spiritual, yoga, Jyotish, philosophy, spiritual things. This is a good time to think about that. But at the same time, don't reject all ancient knowledge. Don't reject all wisdom that is coming your way. But again, I would say if somebody is advising you at this time, wait till after Ketu transit is over to make any decisions. Ketu transiting over Venus. Venus is in Aries, and therefore, it's wanting to do things and rush to complete projects. And Ketu can be heavy on relationships. So be extra careful making any decision about relationships, because Venus is the significator for relationships, and that I would say is the most important thing. Ketu over Saturn, all planets, I would say Saturn is in the most vulnerable position, and Ketu wants to give up things, Saturn wants to experience them. And the exact Ketu's transit over the Saturn is to be watched for, to be careful, to maybe do some remedies for it. Ketu over Ketu, that means you're getting Ketu return. I already talked about Rahu return. That means they'll happen simultaneously. Ketu, Rahu return. You've finished an 18-year cycle. Nothing specifically will happen at the time of the Rahu Ketu return, but more so that you are thinking about doing something spiritual at that time. You're thinking of doing something changing the way you're living your life. So that takes a long time, and it's the next cycle. That means it's the next 18 years are on. So as I said, you would be either 18, 36, 54, or 72, or after 72 would be 90, I think. Yes. So, these are important junction points in your life. That is what is important. And Ketu over Rahu, Rahu is the future, Ketu is the past. They come together. You can be confused. Are you looking at the past? Are you moving into the future? So those are the things to watch for. Now, I think that the best remedy for Ketu transits is, because Ketu is a heavy transit, you have to think next 18 months, what can I do? One of the best remedies for Ketu transit is to study Jyotish, not to follow it, but to study it. So you could think about studying Jyotish, you could think about studying yoga, Ayurveda, you can think all the old sciences, spiritual sciences, because Ketu is moksha karaka. So he wants you to know about self-realization. He wants you to know about what to let go. So instead of being afraid of the transit, be more spiritual and develop yourself during this time, and let go of the difficult aspects that are there. But don't let go quickly. Think, okay, I'm in the process of letting go some things that I have held on to for a long time. I need to let go and to purify and improve myself. What is happening is that Rahu is desireful and wants more and more, and Ketu wants to less and less. He wants to let go. So you have to find a happy medium between the two. But definitely, if you have, your ascendant, sun, moon, or ascendant ruler, major planets in Libra, then this is the time to develop yourself more spiritually and to purify your energy. And that will help you to deal with that transit. So that is it. And do wait for the third part of this series, which is going to be Rahu Ketu, Aries Libras, how it impacts you according to your ascendant or moon sign. Thank you so much.